All right. Let's see. Get some music started. Maybe. Let's see. But let's try this business. Is that audio going through there? We're checking. Check one, check two. I'm just going to jump straight in here this morning because my audio feed is being weird, and I need to make sure that I have audio as my guests will be arriving quite soon. We've got, let's see, checking that. That seems all right. It seems to be exactly what it's supposed to be doing, but you can never tell with these kind of things. That's the fun part. Morning, subscribe, like, etc. Hi, how you guys doing? This morning I will be joined by John Fugelsang. There he is. Oh wait, the Major is in there. Hold on one second. Let me make sure I got my titles right. Part of the promo was done. Substack, A's drop. Better going. Hold on one second. Andrea. Hold on. I'd love to have him. So give me 1 second. If I bring in the Major. I could be completely wrong and off in my own. Yeah, no worries. Okay, great. Awesome. Give me 1 second and I will bring our first guest in because I wanted to talk to the Major specifically about the circumstances in Venezuela, as it were, or as I've known it to be called in my youth. And give me 1 second. Let's try this guy out. Swap this around. Do this. Thank you. There we go. Save. Should be good. Excellent. Let me throw in the camera, and we should be all good in just 1 second. This has been an extraordinary week by all means. There he is. The lovely, the talented Major Ojeda, and I think you can, according to this, it says you're muted on your side. I don't know why. It says, oh no, maybe it unmuted itself. We shall see what we shall see.
Can you hear me?
But I don't, but 1 second. Oh, and I also have audio running, that's fun. Should be able to hear you now. In theory.
Can you hear me?
I can. That was crunchy. I don't know what that was. Give me 1 second. Lately, my earphones have been doing plenty of funky. Oh, there is John Fugelsang in there. So I do have dual guests. I was not drunk this morning. I do have two people in. Major Ojeda and John Fugelsang will be joining me at the same time, which is fantastic. Give me 1 second. This is this is what happens when I go on vacation, and it's not really a vacation. That's the fun part. So, Major, I can hear you just fine. I'm just going to swap out my headphones.
I don't have to be on here forever. I know you got John Fugelsang on here, but you just let me know when we'll discuss issues.
Well,
just let me know.
Actually, I don't know if you're free for the second hour when Phil is on to talk about the Russian interdiction of the boat and all that kind of stuff, because I feel like both of you talking together about those particular topics and Venezuela would be really helpful.
Yeah, I have to take my father to a doctor's appointment.
Oh,
after 1 o'clock.
I have been there. That is the current state of my circumstances as well. I completely get you. So, in that regard, we reschedule for Friday then, and I'll bring you on if you can. That'd be awesome.
Okay, well, I'll check it out. Airborne.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, appreciate that. We had a little bit of guest overlap, which is completely cool. And I thought I knew I wasn't completely hammered this morning in that regard. There we go. So thank you, Major. And I'm going to bring in 1 second after I swap this out and do a little bit of dandy overlays. And oh, I see. That's why I'm in here. So hit the like, share the show, etc., while I get this up in here. And I'm going to put in this one. That's the live one. There we go. We'll go to, how do I do this? Okay, go to publish that guy. Then go, whoops. Yeah, there we go. Now you guys this is live and there you go. Okay, good. Now I can bring our guest in relative comfort into the Airstream trailer that is indeed There we go. Let's take this, hide that, and welcome to the show in good order. If I can flick this and click here. The lovely and talented, there he is. Oh my God, the distinguished, if I do say so my damn self, looking good. I'm going to bring in right now, ladies and gentlemen, John Fugelsang. Looking spicy, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I don't want to lie. I wore the tie for Morning Joe, but then I came straight to you, Al. So it's good.
Well, I understand that. There's the uniform for this kind of show, and then there's the uniform for the presentational media, the presentable media, I should say, actually.
Thank you for understanding. Yes, I did take off my blazer for you to be that informal. So thank you.
Absolutely. My headphones, I'm having to swap out like 3 different pairs this morning because I'm being attacked by the deep state, clearly. But in the interim,
you know what? My headphones aren't working either. I hope my
no, it's. I hear you fine. Hold on. Hopefully, I'm just swapping out until one of them works. But I'm good.
Or is this the show? Is this the show, or are we warming up? What's going on?
Yes, it is the show. We're live. Yes, we are. This is just me monkeying around trying to solve everything. Yeah. That's just how it works. But in and I will be able to satisfy this in just 1 second. I just have to click over to these pods, I guess. See what these ones are up, because I've still got another pair out, so they don't know how to act. Apparently, all of them decided to go fry at the same time, which is a lot of fun. There we go. I think these should work. About 3, 2, 1, and it takes them a moment to wake up. And we'll see. Hopefully. There we go. Hey, look at that. I heard something. Can you hear me okay? Okay, guess not. That's fun. Give me 1 second and I will I'm going to solve this. This is always the issue. Bring 1 moment while I try to have some sense of dignity while I fix this one thing so he doesn't have to operate in relative discomfort while I'm trying to figure this part of it out. We will go through the 3rd pair, and then if not, we will go to the old-fashioned physical hookup kind, because that's how modern life works. Putting these in there. Give me 1 second while this wakes up, and then I'll bring in our dear friend John Fugelsang so he doesn't have to watch me kind of flail. And in the middle of this, I think we should be able to get that. It seems like those are connecting. Hey, look at that. John, can you check for me so that I know you're there? I think it is. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. There. Hold on 1 second. I will go to one guest and publish, and I think we should be able to hear you now. Should be just. It wasn't. I don't think it's you, my dear friend. It is. It was 100% me at one point. Or maybe I am confused. I don't see audio coming from you now. That's the weird part. Yeah, I don't see audio coming from you. Yep. That was the weird part. Okay. Yep. I see you. You look fantastic, and you can hear me, but I don't hear any audio from you. That might be the thing. So let me see if I can settings. That's audio filters. Oh, I saw some movement there. Looked like something going on.
Okay. How do I sound now?
It seemed to be
how's this?
Flickering around somewhere.
All right, I'm going to pull out my mic.
And
abandoning my mic. How is this? I'm abandoning my nice
check
microphone.
1, check
How
2.
is this?
So weird.
Yeah,
it is the ghosts of internet past.
1, 2, 3. Hello.
All right, I can hear you through my regular speaker, so hopefully with echo cancellation it won't be too terrible. There you are. Excellent. Hi. Go ahead.
You can't hear anything I'm saying, can you?
Yes, I can. I can now. Yeah. There's a slight delay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right.
I ditched my nice fancy microphone. I'm using the crappy computer microphone.
Well,
I'm not sure if this is coming from my end or not because my headphones weren't working either. Something's weird.
Yeah, something was odd. I don't. Maybe it's the interwebs today. You know what I blame? I blame CES. It's happening in Vegas, and it's probably eating up all the bandwidth everywhere. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
It could have something to do with the 6 data centers in my neighborhood that are eating up all the power. That could be it too.
That's exactly right. So, welcome to the show. Hi.
All right, I'm going to try and plug my mic back in again now. Hi.
Very exciting. Let's test it out. I'm excited. I'm not going to give in at all.
All right, hey, this is how raw we do it here.
That's
Okay,
right.
hang on a second. And by the way, I wore the tie for Morning Joe. I promise if it was you, I would have come, in a more appropriate attire. Okay, how do I sound? Hang on. God Almighty on a pogo stick. This is so professional. I love
You
doing
sound
this.
great.
This is great.
You sound great.
Okay, how do I sound now? Is this good? This is on the good microphone.
Sounds lovely. It sounds like we've solved
better?
it.
Okay.
Yes, we're good.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year, Hal. Hi.
Thanks. Hi. Yeah, you know what I need is more complications. Currently, you and I have spoken a little bit, and I would like to start the show off because we haven't spoken since last year. I want to appreciate. I want to tell you how much I appreciated your kind words and your caring during the recent unpleasantness that I went through with my dad. You were incredibly wonderful and supportive, and your gracious offers of conversation and were warmly welcomed, if not taken advantage of, simply because I'm just not there yet, and I know you understand.
When my dad died, after a very, very long hospice period, the first thing I did for myself after it was all done was I went off and did some shows with you in San Francisco at Cobb's, and it was so
That's right.
healing. And all I can say is that your father is so lucky to be so loved.
Yeah. Yeah, an amazing. It was an amazing show of love and camaraderie from all of his friends, and then to be there and witness it. I you know you know, and the things you find out. You and I'll have a conversation before I share this on the air at some point. I've been thinking about this for a while, and this is the first time I'm mentioning it on air, but I feel like it's appropriate with you here. Is that I've been thinking about a book idea called "Tell Me About Your Dad," because somebody very gracious said to me, you want to make a guy cry, ask him about his dad. And I was like, I don't, it's a little like almost hokey in this day and age to refer to as sort of the unsung heroes of parenting, but it is absolutely true these days. And I think as a father myself, and you're a father, I know how seriously and how reverently you take it, and how reflective that can be when you do care on what your own father did or tried to do in taking care of you and your siblings, or the family or whatever when you're young, and it causes you to kind of both reflect on it but also compare and try to improve on the system, as it were. And
This is why the last 5 minutes of the film Field of Dreams got that movie a Best Picture nomination. It's a
yes.
very strong undercurrent in our hearts and our souls, and it is a dynamic that whether you had a wonderful father or an abusive father, it goes deep into the heart.
This is true,
Always.
and yeah, and I feel like maybe it's the connections tissue between the corpus callosum, but we have an easier time discussing it about our mothers and our relationship with our mothers, and those are that is more fodder, no pun intended, is made of that than the dad stuff, and I think it's about time. And Amy just said in the chat, 32 years gone for me, still miss my dad. Yeah, and so. Anyways, I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate that. And
Thank you.
now to the current
I
ridiculousness.
appreciate your father.
Yeah, yeah. I got to tell you, I was always proud of my dad, but I got even prouder as I saw how he impacted other people's lives. I have grown men walking up to me at his memorial who I had never met, telling me how much he was like a father to them, and that everything they'd missed in their relationship with their dad, my dad had made up for. Everything from camping trips and fishing trips to advice and sharing of emotion and all that kind of stuff. It was incredible. Yeah.
That's the kind of dad I had. He was a dad to a lot of other people who might have had fathers but didn't have dads, and
Right.
he had the ability and the love in spades to do that. And this is I think that it's a measure of what kind of man you are,
Mm-hmm.
the amount of humanity your father imbued you with, and how much you carry that forward. I mean, with parenting, it's you keep the best and you drop the rest. We
Right.
have this evolutionary responsibility to be as good or better than our dads and be kinder. My dad was the one who broke the cycle in his family of racism, who broke the cycle of physical abuse, who broke the cycle of alcoholism. And when my dad died, he died in Florida. And there were more Republicans than Democrats at his funeral, which I think he would have loved.
Right.
Because for many of these old retirees in Florida, my dad was the first liberal they ever knew. And he was the churchiest guy out there. He was the most Catholic and the most liberal. And my father refused to let someone's politics get in the way of him liking them as a person. He was a much better Christian and a much better American than I could ever hope to be. And the sheer amount of people who disagreed with my dad's views that showed up at his funeral was one of the most moving elements of all of it.
Yeah. It's funny because I don't, even in his area in northern Kentucky, my dad's friends, by and large, lean Republican, if not Trumpy. I don't think they lean necessarily that way, but certainly, traditional Republicans in that regard. And all of them, my dad and his wife Carol, like top donors at NPR, that kind of thing. Like they were really committed to just like, they did a lot of charity work. They did a lot of like voting and activism, but they also were just kind of like the steady liberal in the neighborhood. And those guys didn't reflect, on those guys' opinion, which is interesting because those people will jump to that opinion with a lot of people. So I think that says a lot about your dad and hopefully about my dad as well, is that the people that would normally go immediately, I hear liberal, I hear Democrat, I hear whatever progressive, like I immediately turns me off, but somehow this guy, we're okay,
Well, it's easy to be a liberal and not have personal compassion for the people around you. Your politics don't always bleed into the way you treat other people.
True.
There's lots of liberals I know who are horrible people, and there's lots of conservatives I know who are much more conservative or who are much more liberal with kindness than many liberals. That's
so. What
what
do you
it's all
think that
about.
mix is?
We can surprise you, and that compassion, by the way, is what I think people are starved for. I think
Yes,
people are starved in this culture for men who have compassion and guts. That's what I
right.
want. That's what I
Absolutely.
want to see, and I think that's what we want to vote for.
It's what I call tonic masculinity.
Nice.
Yeah. So there is obviously, so much, as there always is. There's a fire hose of news coming from this White House, and I was like, and all of it just reeks of Epstein cover up. Like, look the other way. Like it's. I mean, this is the most wag the dog, like obvious attack that I've seen. Since they made movies about it in the '90s, in regard to Venezuela, and the. First of all, we haven't spoken since this happened. So your overall take on your belief about Trump's motivations, the how they're responding to it, the legality of it. I'd love to hear your take.
Sure. I don't really view this as a wag the dog scenario to cover up the Epstein files. I think a lot of what they're doing is that. But they've had their eyes on Venezuela for a very, very long time. It was 19 years ago that the previous president of that country canceled the oil contracts with Western oil companies and nationalized it, thinking the oil should belong to the people. Obviously, it's great to have socialist ideals, but very often you have socialist douchebags who don't care about people, they care about power.
Right.
Hitler got into power by pretending to be a socialist, and he was a
Right.
corporatist all the way. So I'm not saying Maduro's a good guy at all. What I'm saying is there are evil white people who believe our oil is under Venezuelan land.
Right.
And they have felt it for a long time, long before Donald Trump ran promising to release the Epstein files, long before Pam Bondi flagrantly disregarded a literal goddamn law just passed by Congress. I mean, we found out this week there has been 1%. 99% of these files haven't come out yet. So we're going to have a long year of this because they're going to keep trickling out. Watch to see more Republicans leak them. But this was about land theft. This was about theft of natural resources. This is good old-fashioned colonizer nonsense, Hal, and it's much, much older than the Epstein files.
I agree.
This
But
is
I will
Iraq.
say,
This is kick their ass and take their gas.
yeah. Well, and Trump has been talking about that for a long time. Like we should have kept the oil in Iraq. We should have, all that stuff. It's been a standard
We
kind
should
of
have stolen the oil. Should have stolen it. Yeah.
precisely. But I would say that the when and the where of it and what kicked it off does correspond. And I think the Wag the Dog was like, here's
Could
an
be.
opportunity. Like, kind of like, these are the 5 wars we could start. In case of emergency, break glass. Colombia's next. The idea of the Greenland story. I also, you've seen, I don't know if you've seen my post about the technocracy of America and that map that Elon Musk's maternal grandfather was, pushing around in the 1940s.
Yes, I saw
and
that.
and
Yeah.
that's I mean, the minute we do this Venezuelan action, Stephen Miller's wife is posting this American flag copy of Greenland. So yes,
Oh
there's a
yeah.
plan that's been going on for a long time. Half of this feels like they lean over Trump's shoulder and go, would be really cool if you did this.
Well,
Almost
that's
with
Rubio.
that. Yeah. And Stephen Miller.
Because Rubio
Yeah.
wants Cuba. Yeah,
Right.
well, Rubio wants Cuba. That's his holy grail. And, I can see where they might try to do it with Greenland because they want to rape the land and extract the natural resources. That's the theft part of it. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, Cuba doesn't have oil, do they? Cuba doesn't have rare earth minerals. Marco Rubio really thinks they're going to get behind another Bay of Pigs. I think Marco Rubio may wind up paying the price for believing Donald Trump, but who knows? We know these men are very willing to send other people's kids to fight and die for corporate profits. But again, I would say to you, there's 2 things to keep in mind because I don't think this is just wag the dog distract from Epstein. Number one, it was a year ago that Donald Trump sat down with the major oil scumbags and made
Mm-hmm.
this quid pro quo deal where you get me elected, I'll give you anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. I mean, it's my favorite line from Star Wars Episode 9. Somehow, Dick Cheney returned. Because
Yeah.
that's what this is. I
Well,
mean,
yeah,
and also
my,
keep in mind, this has been in the works for the entire fall because they were murdering innocent people in fishing boats with
mm-hmm.
outboard motors that they were saying were taking them from Venezuela to the United States with their outboard motor in a
Right.
fishing boat. Now, we've been murdering people. We've been murdering innocent people. They have been murdering them with no evidence, no due process. They hate the Constitution as deeply as they hate the Jesus parts of the New Testament. But we
Mm-hmm.
got to remember the date that really matters. People talk about September 2nd, the double tap, where they blew up this ship. There were 2 guys clinging to life, and they murdered them.
Yeah.
There's no version of the Constitution, the law, or Christianity that say this is okay. But we got to think back to October 16th, because that's when they blew up another boat, and 2 guys lived. And you know what happened? They don't talk about it too much, and our corporate media doesn't talk about it. But the 2 guys that lived and survived the October 16th boat bombing were taken on board a naval vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 days, they were repatriated back to Colombia and El Salvador, their home countries, which means they were sent home. So there's only 2 options. Either we're murdering innocent people in boats, or we let 2 dangerous narco terrorists go free. Now,
Right.
if the Democratic Party cared, they would have made that a major point over the last few months. But they're busy. I don't want to see Chuck Schumer ever get upset about anything. So I'm not really convinced that this is pure. Maybe the timing of it is, but this has been in play for a very long time. And you'd think they'd have a flimsier 27-page indictment. But
Uh-huh.
Maduro's wife had a meeting with some people before she married him and before he became president, and that's why it's a really flimsy case, Hal.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know where this is going to go, but they're going to try and use this as a trial balloon. This was not Donald Trump taking out a dictator. This was Donald Trump becoming a dictator. This is
Right.
him finally getting to be what he wants to be, not president. He wants to be the Putin of the Western Hemisphere. And that's what we're arranging right now.
Right, and that's what that technate map is all about. The entire design of
Yeah.
it was, how do we claim land the way Russia is claiming land, the way China is unifying the provinces, that America should do something similar on this side of the planet, and it should include all the worthwhile land and leave Argentina to the Nazis, after Operation Paperclip, money ran out. I will say, with the 2 guys that were sent back to Colombia and El Salvador, one of them was basically in a coma, and the other one was injured in an unspecified way. So the idea that, if we were going to try them, we sank the evidence, and all we had was 2 guys who either we beat them till they couldn't talk because they didn't film their interrogations or their reception onto the boats, or they were so injured in the blast that they were never going to be able to be put on trial anyway, so we dumped them off to try and never have to deal with it, which is very much like the
Yes.
White House just kind of dismissive idea of how all this shit, it's not worth their time.
Right, but this is why it's important to call out the revoltingly fake Christianity of all of this, because they're trying
Right.
to say, oh, it's a country with a 95% Christian population, and they've been liberated from a dictator. That's not what this was about. And you know what? Donald Trump, I think, is the only Republican who's telling the truth about what this was
Yeah.
about. That it's
You
always
can't
been
not.
about
His
the
brain doesn't
oil.
work anymore. His brain is
They have,
tapioca.
I mean,
He's blurting it all out. He can't
but
say.
these
Yeah.
revoltingly. Go ahead.
I was just saying he's like it's like Austin Powers when he was waking up out of cryo freezing. You know, and he's like, I have no inner monologue. I'm just saying everything out loud, like where he just can't stop himself from admitting all of it, and he's proud of it. That's the other thing too. I think this is
Yeah.
the point where his brain is such cottage cheese right now that he can't hold back his desperate desire to feel strong, be feared,
Yeah.
respected. So he needs to
That's it.
go, I can take your oil is such a brag for him that he doesn't realize he's setting everybody up under him to go to jail eventually. Like,
Oh
period.
yes,
Like,
Pam Bondi and Hegseth don't seem to realize that the immunity ruling doesn't apply to henchmen, do they?
nope, not at all. And the idea they're hoping that he'll pardon them. But I got to say, I think there's a very strong chance that in the next presidency, we need to pass a law. I've said this. We need to pass a law that says a president cannot pardon anyone involved in a crime that he himself is implicated in. It seems pretty simple.
Yeah. Good
But
luck getting that passed. Good luck
yeah,
getting that
no.
passed.
Well, here's
I
the
mean,
thing. I think Biden would have signed it. I think, right, getting it through the Senate is the hard part because the senators who are in there who
yes.
think they're going to be president one day don't want to have that hanging around their neck, right? And
Yeah.
but I think Newsom would sign it. I think Mark Kelly would sign it. I think Gretchen Whitmer would sign it. I think there's a bunch of people in the Democratic side that if that bill landed on their desk, they'd go, I'm not going to need it. Off you go. And
Yeah.
that's where I think Democrats have to be morally, ethically in the future, anyways. Is like,
Well,
you know,
I feel like any Democrat who, the Democrats who come out, and I'm rooting for you, Democrats. Oh, I'm rooting for you. But any Democrat who comes out and talks about accountability and promises hands on Bibles,
yeah,
January of 2027. You guys have until January of 2027 to loot the Treasury and break all the laws you want. But the
hmm
Constitution and accountability come back January 1st, 2027. And the Democratic candidates who promise hands on Bibles on camera are going to be the candidates who rake in the fundraising. Any
right,
Democrats talking about reaching across the aisle, that's not going to get you elected this year. And again, the a lot of wonderful 80-year-olds are leaving Congress. I love Jan Schakowsky. I love Bonnie Watson Coleman. She is a hero. She 80 years old getting shoved outside that concentration camp by ICE in Newark.
hmm
But they're leaving, and we should be really ready for a Democratic Congress that looks very different than this one come a year from this week.
yeah. I mean, I guess so. I feel like in the age of AI, especially, we're seeing a shift over in jobs where it used to be that new technology and new life bumped people who had the younger people always took the jobs of the older people in tech before because they understood the new wave. They understood the
Right.
new experience. They didn't, and it wasn't about wisdom. It was about operating the goddamn thing. And so
Yeah.
this idea of youth winning out over, wisdom or knowledge or whatever over time grew because of our tech-centered society. That is shifting by and large with AI. A lot of the like people right out of college are having a hard time getting a job, but people who
Yeah.
are in the upper levels who've been there for a while have the wisdom to know what's worth doing. Whether you could do it faster or not or more efficiently is the question. But I think there's a similar thing that is happening when it comes to governance. It isn't so much that we're going to have a bunch of whippersnappers coming in there, but some sort of of reasonable age, people with that's who's going to
I'm
make
not
this
talking about
step into
age.
it.
Yeah, I'm not
Right.
talking about age. I'm talking about just the new faces that will be in there of all
Sure.
ages.
Right. Right.
And I'm not a fan of ageism in politics to begin with. What I'm saying is it's going to be a very different looking Democratic House, and a lot of people I really love are leaving, and
hmm
it's okay. And the ones who come out there and promise accountability are going to clean
hmm
up, because let's just say Donald Trump and his policies are not going to become more popular between now and November of this year.
Right. Right, right. Well, and that's
And
I
it's
think
going to
that's
end like the last scene of Scarface, Hal, and you know it. That's how this whole thing
yes.
ends. The last scene of Scarface.
I don't
And
know.
and
I've said maybe I don't know if Vance kicks in at some point, but I don't know that Trump makes it. I got to tell you,
no,
like
I don't think he will either.
right, and I don't, and you know, if Scarface ended like The Notebook, maybe, you know, like, but the but he is getting to a point where everybody is pulling his strings and just getting him to sign things as fast as like sign pages of Project 2025 as fast as you fucking can. Just
Oh
get
yeah.
it
Oh yeah.
operating. Let
They're
us get our
messy.
wins before they fix it, before they catch us, before they just bum rush them effectively. You know, it's
Yeah.
like his old legal thing where he would just like flood people with filings because he could just hire a bunch of people to file things. And so he would win legal cases in New York and real estate because he would just overwhelm them with filings and eventually they'd either just tap out or there'd be some
Yeah.
under the table settlement. And he's kind of doing the same
That's
thing with
their whole
legislation.
Republican. That's flooding the zone. That's the Gish Gallop. That's what they
Right.
do. I mean, but again, we own Venezuela now, and it was
Yeah.
interesting watching all these douchebags who've been lying for the last 10 years that they're so anti-war. Oh, we're so anti-war with Mr. Trump, and now they
Hmm.
all broke out their mission accomplished banners from the attic over the weekend, and
Yeah.
they're talking about the cakewalk and being greeted as liberators. What war? It's almost like they don't learn anything from themselves. But if this invasion was about drugs, you'd have to ignore that Trump just pardoned the Honduran president convicted of importing hundreds of drugs into the
Yeah.
country. They don't care. To believe this is about democracy, you'd have to believe that Trump gives a single solitary damn about democratic legitimacy. He doesn't. And to believe this was legal, you'd have to believe we still have a Congress. He didn't ask Congress. He didn't tell Congress. He didn't get an authorization. Dude just did a war.
Yeah.
And it's a blatant rejection of Jesus. It violates at least 5 of the 10 commandments. I think it violates closer to 7 of them. And
Right.
we have to continue. And yes, Maduro's a very bad man, but this was not done for the citizens of Venezuela. Trump said it. He's the only Republican to have said the truth. It's the seized oil reserves. They
Yeah.
lied about the reason. It's not messy geopolitics. It is anti-Christian imperialism, and it is articulated openly and proudly. And these oil companies have wanted to get in there for so long. And that's what it is. It's a war for oil. It's a war of empire. It's a
Well,
war justified by lies, but it's not a war people who call themselves Christians get to support.
here's the issue that I have with the war for oil aspect of it. I have no doubt that that's what Trump thinks he's going to get out of it. That's what he's fixated on it. That his brain is still firing pins from 2003. That he still thinks he still thinks China's on the up and come. He still thinks they have 1.5 billion people. He still thinks COVID never happened. I don't know. He lives in this like baseline on Law and Order. He's in like 1987. Like he's just watched a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie and said this is how
He
it should
doesn't
be.
believe anything.
Right,
He doesn't
but
believe in anything but that should be mine, whether it's money or real estate or pussy or someone else's natural resources. Me, mine. He is the ultimate American experiment. What would happen if parents never told a spoiled rich child no? He is a
right.
fusion of every awful kid that vanished on the Wonka Chocolate Factory tour, hybridized into one despicable package. And all he cares about is me. That is his ideology. It's why we can't really call him a fascist, because fascists at least believe in things.
Right, and they
His
and they have
movement
a
is
plan.
fascist. He is not.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
he's being shoved along by a fascist wave. But the problem I have is that there's an oil glut right now. I mentioned this last year, or sorry, in 2024 during the campaign. I was like, it does not matter who wins next year. There is going to be an oil glut. There is too much oil in production. OPEC plus countries were holding back because Saudi Arabia was forcing them to do this, but they couldn't
Yes.
hold out for any longer. And China was always the market they were planning for. They were drilling with this expectation that
Yeah.
China was going to kick in and use 5 million barrels a day minimum more than the current production. Right now, and they're not. They're never going to. That's over. And right now we're at 3.5 million barrels a day in surplus. And that's without the Venezuelan oil online
That's
and the
correct.
Russian oil online. If both of those
That's
come
correct.
back online, oil goes to $8 a barrel and nobody's exploring anything. Like the idea, where are they going to get the money from except the US taxpayer to dig new wells in fucking Venezuela if oil is $12 a barrel.
Right. Well, again, someday when Ken Burns makes his documentary about the Trump presidency, and it's 700 hours long to accommodate all the malfeasance and double talking jive and rank fuckery, they're going to have to talk about how this man was actually very good at manipulating the stock market. That's what so many of the tariff announcements and pullbacks were, all grift, all making his rich scumbag friends richer. But don't forget, when COVID began, what Trump did was he went to Russia, he went to OPEC, and he made them cut production. And that is why gas prices were so high for the first couple of years of Joe Biden's presidency. It was
Right.
rigged to be that way.
Yeah.
So one thing that your viewers should get themselves very emotionally prepared for is for Donald Trump to spend much of this year taking credit for low gas prices.
Oh, yeah.
Be ready for that. He's going to do it. But the flip side of it is, I'm not so sure he's going to find a lot of major oil companies that really want to spend the money going to Venezuela and starting to drill, which will take years and years
Yeah,
before
take
they
a
start
decade.
to see a profit from it, which is why he's promising to sweeten the pot right now and shaking them down for 50 million barrels as a further bribe. This is not done for the Christian people of Venezuela. In fact, they are threatening the naval blockade to be even further. They are threatening to deprive food and medicine from these people. They are holding the people of Venezuela hostage. And it's very, very important that we tear apart the Republican ideals that somehow this is noble, because a lot of Republicans get it. For Christ's sakes, Megyn Kelly gets it. But a lot of these douchebags, Hal, you know, they're acting like this is the Iraq war easy victory we were promised 20 years ago, and these smug rat bastards have forgotten all about the history. I don't know how they're going to, I mean, God forbid there's sectarian violence. God forbid there's an armed resistance in Venezuela. I don't know how they're going to blame Hunter Biden for it if American troops die.
Well, okay, so you're going to have, there are obviously FARC-like rebels in the country, and what were effectively like Maduro-linked militias that were either paid by the drug cartels or by him personally or both. But they were there they don't just hold him up, they hold up the substructure of in every city and every town in the country that keeps them in power. So
yes,
that part,
yes,
we're going to strike what are effectively cartel sites any day now.
Oh yeah,
like we're going to bomb.
You excited for our troops to be in urban warfare with cartel drug gangs, because that could be a thing. You know, Iraq was Vietnam with camels, and this is going to be Vietnam with the cast of Narcos.
Well, and also, have we heard anything about the U.S. casualties other than they're doing fine? That returned from Venezuela. Like, I mean, blackout on that.
America didn't suffer many major casualties in the first week of the Iraq invasion. It was the Iraq occupation that gave rise to the very organized resistance that eventually cost us 4,486 lives just over there, not counting the folks who took their lives or fell into addiction or despair once they got back.
Right. And never mind. Okay, so at current count, 75 people were killed by our troops going in. And,
yes. In addition to the 100 we've already killed. We've already killed over 100 civilians with our drone bombs on the boats. Sorry, go ahead.
But specifically in Venezuela. Like, these are Colombians and other people and God knows who, and not like they give a shit. But 7 U.S. Service members were injured. And 2 of the 7 are still recovering, while 5 have recovered from their injuries sustained in the operation. And so that's all we're hearing. They've recovered, but to what level? Right? There's no details in that, and they're not going to be. But we're going to be drone striking inside Venezuela, and they're all going to be cartel sites. Let's just assume they're going to call it that. There'll be villages, there'll be blank areas, empty parts of the jungle, there'll be warehouses that were holding airplane parts. It won't matter. It'll matter as much as what was actually in the fucking boats. And so...
And we know Pete Hegseth cares a lot about not letting innocent civilian bystanders be injured in these strikes. Boy, he cares about that as deeply as he cares about the rest of the New Testament, doesn't he?
Right. Well, he cares about it so much that his wife literally has to force him to pray with her in the morning before he goes to work so he doesn't sin the day away.
You know what? All you need to know about Pete Hegseth, all you need to say to your uncle about Pete Hegseth, the woman went for a rape kit, and the nurse who did the rape kit was the one who called 911 before Pete Hegseth paid her $50,000 to be quiet. Those aren't opinions.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so we're looking at these people basically being in charge for the next 5 months. They're basically off reins. Like they're going to continue to do this shit. The Democrats have no singular way of stopping it. The authorized use of military force and the fact that Trump has designated drug cartels as terrorists blows open any kind of legal interdiction between drugs, because literally a drug, that means legally speaking that a drug dealer selling weed in fucking Denver, off market, right, a guy who doesn't sell in a legal store or whatever, is funding terrorism, and therefore should be subject to the same laws like Guantanamo fucking Bay, right, under that.
Yeah,
Whoops.
but not the Sackler family, right, Hal? Not those drug dealers. Sackler
Right.
safe, right? They're going to be okay, right? I worry about them.
Well, they had time to shuffle their billions around.
They're the cause of the opioid epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're the cause of the opioid epidemic. But it's like, look at this thing with the boats. We don't allow cops to murder American citizens who they suspect might have drugs in cities. Like, there was never any dope on the table. In responsible law enforcement, you take the boat, you have your press conference and show the dope on the table, and then you shut down the scumbags for bigger fish. This was never about law enforcement. This is about colonial theft of resources. That's all it's ever been about. Donald Trump doesn't care about drugs. It's all lies. The Honduran president's pardon is proof of that. To say nothing of Don Jr.
Well, and also
say nothing of Don Jr.
Right. Well, Don Jr. I mean is the root behind the Honduran pardon, because he and Peter Thiel and all these other guys wanted these like corporation cities inside Honduras where they don't pay taxes and they can basically print their own passports.
Yeah.
Basically, remember when Peter Thiel was talking about claiming an oil rig off of the coast of California and declaring it a country,
Yes.
And then everybody laughed. Everybody laughed in his fucking face because they were like, until the first pirates show up and you don't have a security agreement with the United States and we have no responsibility for protecting your dumb ass. Keep all your shit there, stupid. Well, after that failure, his next move was this technate city in Honduras. And that guy was allowing those things to start and before he got arrested. So one of the reasons.
Also remember, they spent months lying that this was about fentanyl, and then finally they realized that everyone knew that was a lie, so it became about cocaine. Donald Trump is not a man historically who's enraged by cocaine. Anybody who lived in New York in the 80s or can read Spy magazine remembers the guy who bombed Venezuela spent the 80s snorting half of Bolivia.
Oh yeah, and obviously his son, at least one of them, is continuing in the family tradition. Quite regularly. The issue that I think they have going for it, that we have as citizens, is that over the next 5 months, there are no real material restraints on any of this, but for like the grace of Stephen fucking Miller. And I would like to lay that right at the feet of the people who didn't vote or who voted for Trump last time in this kind of like Genocide Joe horseshit. The very same people who we saw outside the DNC who never set foot in front of Mar-a-Lago when Netanyahu was meeting with them then or now. Same fucking people, all of them. If everybody had who had voted for Biden had voted for Harris, we would not see any of this shit. There is no way Harris would have set an armada on fucking Venezuela. Even if Maduro was toppled during the same time because the $25 million bounty went to 50 and somebody finally took us up on it.
But Hal, if the American voters had gone for the mixed race person instead of the racist, if they had gone for the woman instead of the rapist, if they had gone for the prosecutor instead of the felon, we wouldn't have all these awesome measles outbreaks. So look at the bright side, please.
Oh, sure, right. And we have the worst flu season worst flu season in a generation. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to blame Trump for that. I'm just going to blame him for having this insane, petulant, aristocratic douchebag junkie clown dismantling the public health services. But this is America. It's got to get worse before it gets better. I'm sorry. It's going to have to. I mean, they hated us for warning them about Iraq. It took 5,000 dead troops for these guys to wise up and then pretend they were anti-war for 15 years.
That's all it bought us, though.
People are going to get hurt. Right,
That's
but
all
I
it bought
get
us.
everyone is going to get hurt, but there are no guardrails anymore. You're exactly right. I mean, maybe the one thing that could save us is the narcissism of John Roberts caring about how he looks in history books, but that's about it.
And to all the maggots who say I didn't vote for this, horseshit. He said exactly as
You
much
voted for it.
on the campaign trail. And to all those people who
These
say
maggots voted to pardon guys who beat up cops for a lie on the Capitol steps. That's their
right.
creed.
Yes, and the people who say, I didn't vote, so it's not my fault. Like, if you didn't vote, you voted for this. You said, let
Yeah,
it
exactly
happen.
right.
Let it
Exactly right.
happen.
And can I also, since you got me all fired up and angry, can I just say one thing about Vice President Harris?
Yes.
This media narrative about her humiliating loss, these people need to shut what we call the fuck up. This woman's in the race for 100 days. 100 days. And she got the third highest vote total of anyone to ever run for any office in this country. Kamala Harris, after 100 days, mixed race woman, got
Right.
more votes than Bill Clinton got both times, than Ronald Reagan got both times, or than Barack Obama got. But Barack Obama never got as many votes for president as Kamala Harris. So this whole
Right.
notion this was a humiliating loss for her, my God, the media has played it up so much, and Democrats who play into that are just making a deadly
Well,
mistake.
I would argue there's just as much a mistake made in discussing it like, that Trump has a mandate. He's got a hair's breadth control
Exactly,
of the House.
49%. Yeah.
And
The
he
majority of
himself
people who showed
never
up to
hit
vote,
50.
The majority,
Right.
You're right. The majority of Americans who bothered to show up to vote in 2016, 2020, and 2024, all three elections, the majority voted against Donald Trump. If you've never cracked 50%, you have no mandate. But again,
Right.
the media is not a fair player anymore. The media is now owned by people who are really into this aristocratic, oligarchical feeding frenzy. And so
Right.
we have to be ready to stand up against the media too. And it's been really amazing watching how people are adapting to that and resisting this. And I just went to MS Now's new studio for the first time this morning. And honestly, I thought, wow, this is a great metaphor. You've gone from being this institutional corporate media outfit to essentially being a startup. And I can't wait to see in a few months what it does for the spirit of that channel, because I think we're all going to get a lot leaner this year. And again, Epstein's not going away. I
Yep.
pray that Venezuela has no further violence, but I don't see it playing out that way. And Donald Trump's policies are not going to get any more popular. Gas prices, he'll take credit for being low, but inflation's going up, and they know it.
Right. Well, and we just, for the record, I don't know if people have seen this, but we just seized a Russian oil tanker by force that we've been chasing through the water for about 2 weeks, apparently. The idea now that we are playing, that there are two thoughts at play, and I'd like to hear what your thinking on this is. One is that Trump has outrun his Putin's control over him, and that the Epstein stuff is out of Putin's hands anymore. Like PP tape is the least of his worries at this point. It would be a refreshing reprise from the shit that's in the Epstein files comparatively.
Yeah.
Like nobody gives
No.
a shit about some hookers peeing on a bed that he's not even in. Right? That's like that was always, by the way, for those that weren't following along, the PP tape was Trump stayed in the same room as Obama, asked the hookers that were servicing him to piss on the bed, because Obama slept there in the kind of petty, lame nature that he was. Now, is there footage of him with those hookers earlier? Maybe that's what he's worried about, but it isn't because he paid him to pee on him or whatever. Like that kind of.
I think it's more that Deutsche Bank holds $2 billion of Trump's debt, and Putin has control over it. I think that's
Exactly,
basically
and it's
more than anything else.
control of it. It's fucking Putin's money. That's why they don't care if they get it back. So
Everybody, just go Google Deutsche Bank whistleblowers and look at the kind of story our media likes to drop.
And you'll find out also how Epstein got his money from America to Russia in the 2 weeks before he died. But the belief system is twofold. One is that this is largely for show. After the belief that he's outrun his need for Putin and he's just seeking his own land and power, and the other people around him are like, screw Putin, you don't need him anymore, boss. You can have all this. And there's a reasonable take on that, and that's what you were talking about, like the long plan that they've had for a while.
I don't think he'd be lying for Putin as strenuously as he is in the negotiations with
I
Ukraine.
swear,
I mean,
half
he came
of
out
it
this week and said Putin wants Ukraine to succeed, like Hitler wants Poland to succeed. You can't see
Yeah.
it. Like he's
Well,
doing some
he also
profoundly
made this
stupid
face
lies.
this week. So
I
it's
love it. Look
a
at
lot of
that.
this. A
Look at
lot of
that.
this. Yeah, a lot of this is fucking muscle memory. Like he's
Oh,
just.
you're from the '80s. Pink hair is back, man. I feel like it's new wave again. I love
I
this
know.
stuff.
I was like, and I ran. So is next.
He looks like
So
Cesar Romero as the Joker.
yeah. So
Sorry.
the other question, the other possibility with Venezuela is that in their private meetings between him and Putin or Witkoff and them or whatever, is that Putin has offered basically to trade his controlling interest in Venezuela, which has been very strong,
That's it.
for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, why
and,
isn't Putin angry about any of this? Why isn't Putin making a fuss about this? Exactly.
well,
And
yeah,
China
I mean,
gets
he.
Taiwan, Putin
Mhm.
gets Europe, and America gets the
Yeah.
Western Hemisphere. That
So
seems to be the deal. The oligarchs are. I mean, it's like Putin is Hitler and Trump is Mussolini, right?
yeah.
And this is the axis, and they're carving up the world because they don't think the Allies are ever going to stop them.
Well, and the problem is they're all running out of runway. Uh, uh, Xi Jinping is in really shit health. I was like, it's a miracle he made it past November. He's basically been underground. There are these huge uprisings in China that by volume, certainly not by per capita, but by volume match what's going on in Iran. The Ayatollah's getting really fucking old. Putin's getting really fucking old. Trump is obviously aging like, garage store like a garage station or
Correct.
gas station sushi on a windowsill. That's what I'm trying to say.
Nice,
And read at the
Al.
same
Very
time.
good. Use that one
Um,
again. Write that one down. I like that.
and all of them are they're all running. They're out of runway. They know it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the only one that actually doesn't mind might be the Ayatollah, although I doubt it because I doubt the piousness of these bullshit leaders, the Hamas leaders the same way. Like I don't think they actually
Yeah.
care about their religious beliefs. I think they've just feathered their own nest and it's a great
They're
way
all
to do it.
fundamentalists. They're all
Right.
fundamentalists. This is what my whole book is about. They don't care about what their holy books teach. Otherwise, they'd be nice to each. They care about power. That's all right-wing Christianity in America cares about. They don't give a rat's ass about anything Jesus said. They
Hmm.
legislate against Jesus's teachings because they're woke. They don't care about religious freedom. They don't care about fighting Satan. They care about conservative Christian power and control over society, culture, and government. And that's the same in Judaism. That's the same in Hinduism. That's the same in Islam. The fundamentalists of all the religions are ruining the religions. And it's the demagogues who use religion to get power. And once in power, do the opposite of what their religions teach. That's Netanyahu. That's
Yep.
Hamas. That's Trump. And
Well,
that's
it's
Putin, by the way, because the Plutarch, the patriarch rather, of the Russian church, has given sanction and said Jesus would love this invasion of Ukraine. You can always hire some stooge to confer sacred, divine justification for any evil thing you do.
Yeah. Well, and I would also say I'm curious because by the way, and this relates nicely, if I do say so my damn self, to your wonderful book, The Separation of Church and
Thank you.
Hate. Hold on as I bring that up.
Thank you. You're thanked in
Yeah.
this book, by the way, Hal. You're thanked in this
Aw.
book.
Well, I have my
Yeah.
copy upstairs that I purchased with my own money because that's how I live, and I want you to sign it the next time I see you because it's worth every penny.
I told you
Twice.
I'd have Simon and Schuster send you a damn copy. You're thanked in the goddamn book. You're the kind of
I
person
don't.
that gets a free copy when that happens. I learned this.
I know that, but I still vote with my dollar in that regard. Thank you very
Right
much. That
Right on.
said,
Well, I'm still Catholic
yeah,
and want to give things away for free.
I understand. It's pathetic.
I know, isn't it?
Um,
Woke.
Yeah. So this, the separation of church and hate. Do you think? And this is, I'm curious in your kind of in the arc of history, is that are monarchies therefore, and therefore dictatorships not based on familial monarchy, but basically the same. Theocracies are monarchies with different daddies.
Strong man.
Right.
Yeah.
Are strongmans a natural evolution of theocracy? Because the person that
Yes.
will push themselves to the front of the line will be someone who can take all the useful shit from it that gives them power and ignore all the parts that would take that power away.
Well, yes. That's why their Christianity is so foul and rancid, because they need Jesus to be an authority figure, and that's the opposite, right? I mean, Jesus, like Satan offered Jesus to be king. He said no. After the loaves and fishes, if they offered him to be king and he ran away and hid in the mountains. Jesus was no kings before it was trendy. But this is why they hate to put the teachings of Jesus anywhere. You show me a Republican anywhere who quotes Jesus or who's fighting to put Jesus's quotes on the side of a courtroom wall or a classroom.
Hmm.
They go for the Ten Commandments, and I love the Ten Commandments, but let's look at the Ten Commandments are much more authoritarian. The Ten
Hmm.
Commandments are about order and punishment. Whereas the Sermon on the Mount is about conscience and love and going to the margins and devoting yourself to helping the least of these.
Hmm.
That was Jesus's whole mission. Humility, servant leadership. The way you treat the lowest is how you treat him. Dude was not about total right wing domination of the fucking school board. And so
Hmm.
that's why they're so much more into the law and order. They needed Jesus to be an authoritarian figure because his actual teachings are as threatening to empire now as they were 2,000 years ago. And the great thing about that is you don't need to believe in any of the Bible as literal fact to use this against these frauds. You don't need to believe in
Right.
Jesus' divinity to recognize the revolutionary ethic of his teachings and to quote them against these flock fleecing frauds because it's just camouflage to them. They believe in none of it. And I wrote this book because the Democratic Party is never going to take Jesus back from these people. And the media is never going to ask hard questions of these frauds. The media is so afraid if I give me one teaching of Jesus that the MAGA movement fights for. That's the question. Media will
Hmm.
never ask this question of J.D. Vance because then they'll lose a return booking. So it's going to be up to the rest of us, believers and non believers alike, to remind the world that hate is not a Christian value, regardless of what your beliefs are.
Right, whatever they try to sell it as. Okay. So and by the way, great book, Separation of Church and Hate. Please pick it up at your local bookstore. Order it through
Yes.
the Barnes and the Nobles or the Amazon or wherever you get your books. It's nice that books are still being sold and people are very much into the paper and the holding of the book again. And it's nice. There's
They
a whole
really
big
are.
movement amongst the youths where they want to handle the book, and it's such a nice thing to see that when people like reading a book on the train or reading a book on the plane again. It's really lovely. Now I
Well,
use
I really tried to
yeah.
I tried to make this like a dense and light. I tried to make it very PC and fun to read, but I got to say how I've been astonished at. I mean, I knew audiobooks were big, but whoa. I mean,
Hmm.
audiobooks have just revolutionized publishing, and so many people say, "I loved your book. When'd you read it?" Well, I listened to it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like, and that's half. I mean, it's
Yes.
huge, and that was the fun part for me. I had a lot more fun performing this book than writing this book, and I'm sure you'll
I know
understand
that.
that.
I yes, I recognize that because I was there during the process. Some of it,
Oh, that's right,
you
you
know,
were. Yeah, I wrote
because
this thing
we
in
were
two
doing
dozen
shows
hotel
and
rooms. I know.
I got to go back to the hotel and finish the thing before they beat me with the reeds or whatever.
We did this show in Chicago, right, with Governor Pritzker and
Mhm.
Mark Hamill and all these groupie people and Jamie Harrison. And then after the remember after the show, I went back to my everyone else out to party. I went back to my hotel and I was finishing the draft until 6 a.m. I
Yes.
was up till sunrise after our big pay-per-view show, and then I sent it into the publishers, put on different clothes, and went into the first day of the DNC. I mean, like
Mm.
that was a crazy time.
You are a
But I
man of
thank you for being
true
so great during it.
depth and dedication, my dear friend. So I guess the question for uh, the big question is how long is MAGA going to hang on and support Donald Trump? Because the general thought has been for a very long time that no matter what he does, they're with him. But
Yep.
materially, we are seeing that fall apart.
Bit slowly.
Oh, the shocking difference between the media that I see, especially amongst the maggot faithful, and them. There's obviously the people that follow, like Benny Johnson and Cat Turd, who try
Yeah.
to like rest the ship. They're always trying to like get it back upright. But between the Charlie Kirk murder and the this attack on Venezuela, the Epstein files, you can track from July when that memo came out from Pam Bondi with no signatures on it from Bongholio and
Yeah.
Patel, and you can track the dive in his support that has been very
Well,
consistent.
in independence, yeah. But I mean, he's still rabidly popular. I've said for a long time, the only way that he's ever going to lose this base is if he starts wearing a T-shirt that has the words "Black" and "Lives" followed by "Matter." If he started wearing that T-shirt, then he'd lose the base. But until then, you know this. This guy could eat a baby. He could eat a baby. This guy could club baby seals while performing unsterilized rectal surgery on screaming American veterans. and the base wouldn't go because it is a cult of blind, unmanly obedience. But when we were
Yeah.
kids, you know how many creepy old guys still defended Nixon, right? He wasn't
Hmm.
bad, he just got caught. And, let's not forget how much they hated us for warning about the goddamn Iraq war, warning them about Bush Cheney economic policy. And they hated us, Hal. Now, you
Hmm.
try to find a right wing brother and sister defending Bush and Cheney, defending
Right.
the Iraq war, defending Bush's trickle down. Try to find anyone doing that now. In 10
Right.
years,
Yeah.
half of these mutts are going to
Yeah.
deny they ever voted for Trump after 2016.
I totally agree. What I will say is that while I don't think the entire crowd is going to dump on him at any point and get out, I do think there is an 8 to 12% drop. That is why he showed up at the RNC to give that speech about when that
Yeah.
other House member died, and they're like, "Oh shit, we've now got a 3-vote margin." And Marjorie leaving and that kind of stuff. And this is becoming a consistent thing. Like, her turning is a real thing. And she takes with her, as ridiculous as she is as a human being, a chunk of the QAnons she brought in the first place. And there may be not,
She doesn't take
the
them with her. She doesn't take them with her. No, and she didn't turn. She broke up with Trump. She's every bit
right.
as evil as she always was. She still thinks January 6th was just swell. We got to remember
Oh,
that.
I agree, but
She
she's out of
broke
the
up
house.
with
I don't
him.
give a shit. What I'm saying is that she still doesn't like Mike Johnson. She still thinks the Republican Party is full of
None of them
rhinos,
like Mike Johnson.
and so
Oh yeah,
she's not gonna motivate anybody on the Republican side to go vote. Like,
that's right.
she's doing the exact out. She's pulling a Young
Oh
Turks
yeah.
right now.
But
There are 8 fucking channels that were up Trump's ass. And the only thing that upset them was it was too dark and tight, and they were there for them to applaud all the time. And all those people have jumped fucking ship. And with them, kind of like the new leaders of that, Dave Smith and some others. And as much as like Tucker Carlson seems to be
it's
siding with
beginning.
Trump,
It's
yeah,
beginning.
the rift is
But you got to
real.
remember, they all only care. They only care about themselves. Hal. It's a cult of selfishness. Okay. And again, we had
True.
Trump and Elon Musk putting 2 corrosive billionaire at birth narcissists in the same room together. It doesn't work. It is a
Right.
cult of selfishness. Their platform is selfishness. Their economic platform is selfishness. John Kenneth Galbraith said in 1967. The modern conservative is engaged in one of mankind's oldest pursuits. I'm messing it up, but the search for to make selfishness into a virtue. And
Mm-hmm.
so these people will cling to Trump when
It's the
he's
title of
riding
Ayn Rand's
high because it
book.
helps them. Yeah, but they'll cling to Trump when he's doing well because that helps them, right? But when
Right.
things go bad, he's never been about loyalty. He's about obedience. He's
Mm-hmm.
never been about loyalty. That goes 2 ways. And they will turn on him when it no longer suits them. And let's remember, the healthcare costs, that's the real thing. And that's going to be a bigger factor in the
Right.
midterms
That
than the
should be the
Epstein
single
files.
biggest talking point, with the cascade of. By the way, just the engine of this train, because there are
The
so many other
Democrats
cars behind
shut
it.
down the government. Democrats shut down the government to stop your premiums from going up. That's the freaking truth right there. And
Yep.
that's going to be the real factor. And let's remember, Donald Trump did not help and could not help the Republicans in 2018 or 2022. Because at the end of the day, Mr. Sparks, there are some folks that just aren't going to come down from the mountain or in from the woods or out from
Yep.
the swamp to actually tell it when Mr. Trump from the TV's not on it. So
Yep.
these guys know. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't find Jesus. Craven self-interest. She
Yep.
knew. She knew that taking away the subsidies were going to jack up the cost of healthcare in her district. That's it. It was not because
Yep.
she cares. It's because she knew that the train was headed for a
Well,
brick
that's
wall. And now
as
we
much.
all get
Yeah.
to watch it.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
it's amazing how Republicans, once they actually have to govern, start sounding like Democrats in terms of solutions. You hear Cotton and all these guys talking about SNAP, Josh Hawley worrying about SNAP all of a sudden,
Yeah,
people
they
complaining
know.
about this.
That's why,
Once you
folks.
actually have to do the fucking job, then you realize Democrats are busy already doing it for you. And if we just voted for them, we could have an argument of liberal to conservative entirely under the umbrella of the Democratic Party without it bringing in these fucking
Yeah.
spoiler assholes who don't even like the goddamn
Yeah.
country. John Fugel saying thank you for your friendship and your wonderful work, as well as how lovely you were
Stop.
during the current unpleasantness. And we will speak again. And I hope to be on the
Uh,
road with you very soon, sir.
let's talk about that. We got to do some shows. God
We
bless
must.
your dad. And Thanks as always to your deeply sexually attractive audience, Hal. For those who don't know, I do the evening programming block on SiriusXM Progress 127 every night. And if you don't have SiriusXM, we're a free podcast called the John Fugelsang Podcast the next day. And I have a Substack because that's mandated by law now, and my book is out. And thank you so much for letting me drag your show down to my level again.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, okay. There he goes. And I'm going to bring in Philip Bittner in just 1 second. He's waiting in the wings. He's been sorely missed as well. Let me jump into here and go to this, and I'll pop this guy in here with the thing and change who the guest is. One of these days I'll have somebody in the background who does this for me, but not now. Come on. And I'll turn this off. And I'll turn this on. I think that'll work. And then, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Philip Bittner, joining us from Kyiv. How are you, good sir?
Good, thanks. Cold. Winter is definitely set in, so
yes,
very snowy here.
I've been wanting to ask you about one particular story this morning, not the least of which is this. Hold on, let me go back to live mode, and we'll go over to here. And I've got to bring you in and put your face in this thing so you can see it. But the seizing of the ship by the U.S., this Russian tanker, and like there's footage of them dropping in, and this macho horse shit, and let's see if this plays, whatever. But they literally just tracking it, and then here's a helicopter dropping on it, and it's just this it's night vision TV. It's their favorite fucking show right now. And the question is, at this point, I gotta say, after Maduro was snatched, Zelensky came out and said, "Oh, so if the leader of a country is a criminal, you can kind of just go in and get the dude." That's an interesting take. Basically, maybe
line.
Can I suggest another target? The person who's next. Obviously,
it was a funny line.
Yeah, obviously, Russian media is not happy about this, and obviously because it's one of their outposts. But also Trump's supposedly a buddy or whatever their argument is. Yeah. So what's happening over there? How are they taking it over there? And especially the whole Jesus, it's hard to argue that, we're not technically invading Ukraine, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Maduro and Putin have had a long relationship.
Right.
Venezuela has been an irritant to the United States in no small part because they're propped up by Moscow. And I know I had a Russian friend a decade ago who was fluent in Spanish, and the Russian government flew her over to translate instruction manuals for, I think it was the Su-27. It could have been the Su-35, I forget, but planes that Russia had given to Venezuela, which most likely sold, but they were a client state, and more recently they've been deeply involved, and I'm surprised it took them this long to catch a ship coming out, breaking the embargo, the
sanctions,
because the sanctions, because Venezuela has been a key asset in the Russian shadow fleet, which is hauling fossil fuels all around the world. So they have an outpost in the Arctic that they use for the shadow fleet, that's Russian territory, but it's not great. You have to deal with the waters freeze up, and you got to go through the North Sea, which is difficult terrain because the Brits are there and they monitor Russian ships, and so they could intercede as well. So that Arctic outpost is not that great for them. Of course, they lost their access to the sea, the Mediterranean, when Assad fell in Syria. So they lost access there, and now they've lost Venezuela. I mean, this is not going well
Right.
for Russia, and they'll kick and scream, they'll jump up and down, they'll say how awful it is, and then they won't do anything about it because there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing they can do about it. I mean, they could ramp up activities, cyber activities. They could ramp up their attacks on on politics, our body politic. They can they can step up what they've been doing. But one of the problems for them with that is that one of the greatest assets of that kind of warfare, this kind of what do they call it? Asymmetrical warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the problems is that it has to be done in the shadows.
Yeah,
you can't. It part of its effectiveness is its deniability, because then we don't know anything about all these Bitcoin or all these accounts that are attacking everybody and spreading disinformation and fake videos and all the things that they do. They have to be able to deny it with a certain amount of cheek as well. They have to be at the same time. They have to be kind of like, yeah, we're doing this, but we don't know anything about it. That's how it's effective because you're never able to then take countermeasures. Because then you're the aggressor. We weren't doing anything. I don't know what you're talking about. So when you find a vessel that's breaking the international embargo, it's like, Russia, we see you.
right.
So there's a lot to this, but I think there's so much to take away from this. But I think one of the most important things is that Russia has now lost yet another warm water port where they can find a place to hide their oil tankers, refuel, refit. They don't necessarily need a place where they need to take on fossil fuels. They can do that in the mid Atlantic or something. They can find places to do, and that's actually how they do it. Is they do it in international waters, so they can't get caught. Yada 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 yada.
Right. So it's like touching base for
Moscow.
them. Yeah. So Fiona Hill and a few others have made the point that I think when did she actually say this? Because this was earlier, I think. Yeah, she was in 2019.
When she testified, she talked about this relationship.
Yeah, and that Putin suggested trading Venezuela for Ukraine at one point with the idea of like, how about we're in your backyard and you're in our backyard. You get out of our backyard and we'll get out of yours, and you can take over Venezuela. The problem is, in a lot of ways, Russia sells air defense stuff to them. It's also involved in the oil shipments, but the oil is being shipped for the benefit of China. So China's actually in the driver's seat in a lot of this stuff because they're the ones who can accept or reject the oil that they're getting, accept or reject what weapons can be used in the state and that kind of stuff. And when they were in Panama, I had a little bit more even control than that. So it's not like it's his to give away, but it seems like that's what he offered to Trump at one point a while back. And people are thinking that this is maybe an extension of that trade, that eventually this is going to be an excuse. But I don't know how much more he can give up on Ukraine at this point on his own.
It's not up to him.
Right,
it's not
exactly.
up to him.
Yeah.
It's up to the Ukrainians. And
that's
the Ukrainians are kicking ass.
Yeah.
They've got a brand new basically a Maginot Line that they've been
Mm-hmm.
building in secret.
Mm-hmm.
This defensive line that is just going to slow the Russians down significantly, with
Yeah.
rows and rows of razor wire and dragon's teeth to stop armored vehicles and stuff like that. Plus, on the field, they are actually having some success. They're having difficulty in certain areas, but they're also having, counterattacks that seem to be successful. So the Ukrainian, it's not up to
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Right.
It's Donald Trump. What Donald Trump's going to call Zelensky and say, "I made this deal. They'll
Yeah.
stop fighting you. We'll get Venezuela, but
Yeah.
you have to give them basically
What?
probably the entire country."
Right.
But and Zelensky's going to go, "Oh, sure, I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Brilliant.
No problem."
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. Of course
And call all
not.
the other
Of course
European
not.
leaders, and after this Greenland
And then,
bullshit,
all
get
the
them
other
to be on board
European-
with not helping Ukraine. It's yeah.
No, it's the whole thing is idiotic. But what it does show, and this is another point that I did want to make when we were discussing this today, is that it also does fall into what both Trump and Putin, and presumably Xi, but I
Mm-hmm.
can speak with some authority on both Trump and Putin in this, is that it's the structure of the world, being divvied up into zones of control is exactly the kind of world that both of those idiots envision.
Right.
Putin envisions it because, of course, he's a Soviet. He's still born and raised in the Soviet Union, and is still a flag waving carrier of Russian Empire. I mean, that's what this war is all about. So they both agree in this concept of this part of the world is ours, that part of the world is yours, that part of the world is China's, and all the little countries that are in those parts of the world, fuck them.
Well, and also
sovereignty.
Jen, thank you so much for sending the memberships. That's awesome. Bless you. Okay, so the other thing too is, and I've heard this from a bunch of people, and it's a bit maddening, is that this is Glenn Beck thinks it's all about the dollar. I watched part of his show this morning, God forbid, and it was the most fucking ridiculous, like excuse after excuse after excuse for this, when it really is just bro science, kind of gone military. It's like it's the kind of thinking that goes into an energy drink as opposed to an actual plan. But the idea was that the BRICS are all getting together, and it's us against them. It's a bipolar world, and the U.S. has to be on our own because Europe's lost. But the BRICS countries are going to take over, and that's going to be. May I share something with the lovely people over here? Russia on the brink as China eyes major land grab amid economy meltdown. Tensions over territory have continued to simmer despite the recent détente between Moscow and China following Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. This is. I've been talking about this for a while, like when China started renaming parts of Russia on their maps to their original Chinese names before the Russo-Sino War, the Russia-Sino War. Russia's been urged to China has been urged to seize up to a third of Russian territory in the event of political and economic collapse of the country. Now, you and I were talking about early in this, like the West needs a plan for when Russia goes down the toilet. When Putin gets deposed or their economy collapses, if the next 1991 that happens, we got to be a little better prepared for it. And obviously, we decided to do it in the United States by hiring the biggest dumbass we could find to run everything when that might happen, and let it just collapse into chaos and gulf. But Russia's Far East is a huge swath of land that covers an area of roughly 7 million square kilometers. The region contains some of Russia's most prized mineral assets, including gold, diamonds, and oil. It is also sparsely populated, with about just 8 million people living there. Put that in context, Russia's total population numbers roughly 143 million. Chinese nationalists have long viewed Russia's Far East as belonging to Beijing and have claimed the Kremlin stole the territory in the 19th century. Boy, does that sound familiar.
Which they did.
Yes, absolutely. And they'd take more if they felt like they needed it. That's the other thing. Is like Russia's no friend of China ultimately, and if they were like, "Oh shit, we need that ground to do it," they wouldn't hesitate if they thought they could get away with it.
Look up the history of the Boxer Revolution,
Right?
Or the Boxer Rebellion. I mean, the Russians were very much involved in empire building in Asia. I mean, they got bones to pick with the Chinese. They got bones to pick with the Japanese. I mean, what happens if the center cannot hold in Moscow? There are the Kuril Islands that Japan lays claim to. Right. There's Sakhalin. Sakhalin is this island where, after the fall of the Soviet Union, they built an oil refinery, and I think it's both refinery and distribution, but it's a major oil facility that was built with British Petroleum, with BP. Yeah. And then when Putin came to power, he stole it. Yeah. He stole it from BP. The territory was already they one of the few things that they had grabbed, I think, at the end of the Second World War is when they acquired Sakhalin. But they built this facility on it, and that is a very pricey facility. Sakhalin 1 and 2 are both major fossil fuel centers, and they're both out there. Yeah. So incredibly hard for the Russians to maintain a defense, incredibly hard for them to maintain the facility itself. You know, you don't put a lot of money into a facility like that unless you're drawing something substantial out of the ground, and they are. Both Sakhalin projects are enormous fossil fuel projects. And then there's the Kuril Islands, you know,
and
which,
also
all of it. We forget about all that Eastern Russian stuff that's going to be up for grabs.
Absolutely, and they've got a tenuous hold on it to start with. You know, so the idea that they've got real, control, like Japan would love to make this Japan as well, like extend like all this territory down to here.
I think up until 1945, I think that's when they grabbed it, because of, like after. I mean, not to get into a history podcast, but I mean the point is that when Europe fell, Russia was like, every brigade that we have in Berlin that isn't busy like holding things down and creating the Berlin Wall, all of those battalions went east, and they took advantage of the fact that like we can declare. I think they had actually already declared war with Japan because they were part of the alliance, but now we can actually do something about it. And I think that's when they grabbed the Kurils. Right. If my history memory is, but it's always been contentious out there. Vladivostok has been out there. Vladivostok has a lot of serious problems, but it's undeniably Russian. But Russia's easternmost holdings are tenuous at best, and so as their naval power starts to fall apart, and their bases become ineffectual, and as the center cannot hold because Putin in particular has created this system where he's the sun and everybody orbits around him. That's not unusual for Russia. That kind of is the Russian playbook.
The methodology of leadership. Yeah, right.
Yeah, everything goes up. It's always been a vertical power structure. So what happens when the center can't hold? and you get Far East territories, which have a lot of very valuable assets getting grabbed. I mean, what would we do if the Japanese grabbed the Kurils again? What would we do? What would we do if the Japanese, said, we're taking Sakhalin, we're taking all of this territory along the Mongolian, steppe, and all,
Holy shit.
all the assets that are in there. I mean, it's not going well for Vladimir Putin. It really isn't. And I still contend that those two, Trump and Putin, that relationship, there's something going on. And I think the GOP in general has been infiltrated pervasively by Russian intelligence. But I don't understand. I don't know the plays that are being played, and I think there are, as is the case in geopolitics. You move one brick here, but the repercussions of it is another brick over there needs to be moved, or what have you. So there's a lot in play here with this just incredible seizure of Venezuela, and it's not good news for the Kremlin. It's especially right now when things are going so badly for them in so many other different ways. We will have to see, but this is going to hurt Russia really bad with the Shadow Fleet, which is one of the only things that's really sustaining them. And they're having rolling blackouts in Moscow now. They're losing the internet in the Far East. Some say it's a power issue. Some say it's a control issue. Some say it's to deter drones. But their entire system, you are seeing greater and greater cracks in the Russian system.
So I guess the question
it's not going well.
Yeah. Let's see if this is in Iran. Let's see. There's on one of these flight trackers.
There's that too. Yeah.
Yeah. They're showing this. This is the Russian embassy plane. Not looking so good. I think this is the thing. Yeah. See, Russian army is urgently evacuating staff of the Russian embassy along with their families in Israel and returning them to Russia. They're getting everybody out of the Middle East, it seems.
Yeah. Which is always a precursor.
Yeah. So the question. Yeah. Okay. So their relationship with Iran. I'm curious from your standpoint, and I've seen a bunch of people on 60 Minutes or Solovyev's kind of show talking about, and this is the Russian 60 Minutes, not the American 60 Minutes, talking, definitely pissed, definitely upset about Maduro, definitely upset about what's going on in Iran. But it's hard to tell whether Putin's just kind of given up on it or whatever, or he's got one job right now, I guess. Russia's shipping weapons in as fast as they can to the Iranian regime, but the police stations and the military stations are being overrun by the public and basically ransacked. So guns are guns don't kill people, people kill people. And you can dump as many guns there as you want, but eventually they could get turned on the regime, which is the other part. So they just sit idle and baking in the hot sun.
Yeah. And it's not like they can move any of their air assets down to Iran like they did with Assad. Mm-hmm. They saved Assad once, and then, ultimately, because they're bogged down here and can't spare anybody, the Assad regime fell. If Russian planes are not going to be in the skies in Iran, he's hanging out with Yanukovych, exactly. And what's his name, the hacker
Hmm.
Uh,
Oh yeah,
look,
Snowden.
things are
Yeah,
not going.
it's a sitcom
Snowden,
waiting to
it's
happen.
Snowden. In that, yeah, it's my three dads.
Hmm.
Uh, so look, things are not going well for Vladimir Putin. Things are not going well for him here in Ukraine. I mean, the Ukrainians have enough money to fight for 2 more years at least as it
Hmm.
stands now.
Yeah.
As the moment you and I are talking, Ukraine has the means to fight for another full 2 years.
Hmm.
That's going to change. That's going to get bigger. I think
Hmm.
that's going to be Ukraine can prosecute the war for another 5 years,
I
for
agree.
another 10 years, for whatever it's going to take. And I know that a lot of people hear that and they say, well, it's easy for a foreigner to say, you're going to fight until the last Ukrainian. And they do have a mobilization problem. And they do have a problem with rotation. They need to get men off the line. They need
Hmm.
to rotate them, and they don't have enough men. So it's not all, you know, uh, strawberry and cream, strawberries and cream over here. I mean, the Ukrainians are
Hmm.
suffering, and the power situation is terrible. I
Hmm.
mean, we just went through a 10-day period, a 2-week period of rolling blackouts again here.
Right.
That are controlled by the power people, the power industry. So we've got little space heaters, and you plan for times when you can do a load of laundry or whatever. You
Yeah.
figure, if you're in a high rise, you're like, when can I get into the elevator and not have the risk of getting stuck? That kind of stuff.
Sorry.
It's not, yeah, and it's cold. It's really cold. Hey, Chips.
Hey, Chip, go.
It's really cold.
Hmm.
How's
Yeah.
he doing?
He's good. He's a panda pretending to be a cat. Hi. Hold on one second. He's gonna get over here. What are you doing? Get into there. Thank you. He was sniffing around my feet, and I was like, I was like, he sometimes needs to be carried to the restroom, because he's that lazy. Um,
No,
the
I
I
mean,
mean,
things are not perfect here in Ukraine for the Ukrainians.
mhm,
But I mean, as we've said for a very, very long time, it's just
mhm,
the Russians do not have the capacity to do what they need to do in Ukraine. And
right,
that reality has been a reality for a very long time. But
mhm,
they just keep banging their heads against it because they don't have an alternative. Because if the war stops,
mhm,
the most important person in Russia, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, is getting strung up.
right.
He's getting a
That's his
severe
alternative,
lead poisoning.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
his alternative. So, I mean, there's some talk of more mobilization inside Russia, like a third large mobilization in 2026. But
Mhm.
all that is just grabbing kids off the street, putting a uniform on them, shaving their heads, giving them a gun, and
Yeah.
going, go that way. Um,
Uh,
Ukrainian training is better. The quality of their soldiers is better. The quality of their equipment, much of it provided by us, is better. Their technology is better. Their drone tech, although that's in contention. You can make an argument about who's got the better drone technology and is using it better or producing better.
right.
I lean on the side of the Ukrainians because I've seen it.
Yep.
I've been to drone production factories,
Mhm.
and when I call them a factory, it's a little misleading. What it is it's little garages
Yeah.
and workshops and tin man teams
Mhm.
dotted all throughout this country. And
Right.
instead of making camouflage netting, they're 3D printing drones day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
I have some photographs from a recent trip that I think I'm okay to release, but I'm going to wait a little bit and talk to my colleague who I was
Okay.
on that trip with to
Sure.
see if we can release those pictures. But in those pictures, you see what it is. It's a 10-man team, roughly, give or take, and one takes the thing off the 3D printer, and he solders on the rotors, and then
Mm-hmm.
he moves it down the assembly line, and the guy puts the chip in,
Mm-hmm.
and then they send it down the assembly line, and the guy has been shrink wrapping a battery to
Mm-hmm.
weatherproof it. He puts that on the drone, and then it goes onto a pallet. And by the end of the day, they're getting, in this one little 10-man 10-man garage. They're putting. I think he was saying they were putting over 250 drones out a day,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just one small 10-man team uh, in the middle in an apartment block or in an
Right. Which
industrial
is
park.
decentralized and harder to take out.
Exactly, on purpose, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
thinking. And they're just churning this out. So the reason I bring this up is the
Ticket.
Russians
Yep.
are not the Russians are by no means winning this war. As a matter
Right.
of fact, I think 2026 has the potential of being a very pivotal moment in time in
Mm-hmm.
this war. I don't know if the war will end this year or not. I mean, God,
Mm-hmm.
we all hope
Mm-hmm.
it will, because I'd love to be able to come home.
Right.
But it it I I think it is going, if it doesn't end this year, it is going to become inescapably obvious that the Russians cannot win. They
Right.
do not have the means to achieve the strategic goals that they have. The best thing that they can hope for is the idiot in the White House to force some sort of stupid peace deal,
Right.
ceasefire, whatever it is, so that they can go back, lick their wounds, and
Mm-hmm.
come back in whenever, a year, five
Right.
years, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, it nobody wants this war to end more than the Ukraine. I just interviewed our next guest. We're finally starting to put out shows again. We had a little gap there for a variety of
Mm-hmm.
logistical reasons, and I brought back some new kit, so we were installing it in the studio and things like that. But I'm putting out a episode this week, and it's with an author, a Ukrainian author who moved to Chicago when she was 15 and stayed there until her mid late 20s. Came back to Europe with her husband, who's Belgian, lives
Mm-hmm.
in Brussels. I believe he's Belgian. Well, regardless, he's European and they live in Brussels. Uh, and that compelled her to, after 2014, to re-establish ties with her Ukrainian family. And so she's got a wonderful book out called The Rooster House. And it's all about talking to her grandmother about what their family history is when it comes to the relationship with the Russians and Soviet occupation
Mm-hmm.
of Ukraine. And it's a fascinating conversation, and it's about something that Moscow hasn't come to terms with, the world hasn't come to terms with. Is that they are no longer going to be a colony. They're
Mm-hmm.
no longer going to be a colony. That is done. Those days are over.
Right.
They ended on Maidan in 2013, 2014. I
Mm-hmm.
was an eyewitness to that. I've been coming to Ukraine for 25 years. That event changed Ukraine forever. It was a bell that could not be unrung. The
Right.
idea that we are nobody's colony anymore, and we are going to have self-determination, and we're the ones that are going to be telling our own stories. And so it's great to talk to Ukrainians about this kind of stuff. And the things that we talked about, for this week's episode. I mean, it's the way the Russians treat Ukrainians is just, they've always seen them as this little silly people, these red,
Right.
kind of backwater, and yet at the same time, the need for them to colonize Ukraine so that they can be an empire and they can have access to Europe and all sorts of other things. But I think in 2026, we're going to get to a place where it's going to be unavoidable.
Right.
That Russia's losing this war and cannot win this war, and
Agreed.
that there is at the end of the day going to be a country called Ukraine that is sovereign and has its own story to tell and has its own country to build. And I think that's going to become an inevitability that the world would be
I think everybody
avoid
but
in
Trump seems to
2026.
have recognized it already, especially in the European leadership. They just seem like
Yeah.
locked in. I mean, there were some early adopters, people like the Finnish president and a couple of others who were like, they were committed to Ukraine from the very beginning and very aware that they had a very good chance of driving this back, especially after the initial attack failed and they hung in there. And you're like, well, all they needed were the arms, and they were able to, hold off this giant Russian bear, right? Was the theory.
Right.
I want to show you. This is footage of the Iranians marching, during the day out there, and this is a fairly regular thing now. Now their money is effectively worthless right now. Their inflation is through the roof. They have bigger than anything else. And I think the primary driver of this maybe being, again, kind of like Ukraine, this is the final nail in the coffin for the Ayatollah and stuff, is that they have a water shortage. They are facing an existential water crisis in that country. Now, a country with, built on a desert shouldn't be that surprising, but Israel manages to have desalination plants, and Russia's been wasting all this money making nukes, in theory, and they could have been doing this. And I think that's more where the uprising is coming from, even mixed with the fundamentalism of, snatching women off the street who aren't wearing their burqas and beating them, and those women who have stood out as kind of martyrs to freedom in that country. But each time this happens, it ticks stronger and stronger and stronger. It seems, especially the more the government tries to put it back. And
I see a lot of Maidan in this.
yes,
I do. I see the same kind
Agreed.
of spirit of just getting out on the streets. There's also a generational difference that's happening in Iran. I've actually never been to Iran, but I've covered Iran from afar for a very long time. And one of the major problems they have is that a huge percentage of their population had nothing to do with the revolution. They were born, a decade and a half after the revolution. They don't, they're the largest single demographic block in Iran are guys that don't have anything to do with the regime, with the Islamic Revolution, with all that kind of stuff. They're just young people. There's a wonderful movie. If people want to kind of get a kind of look inside, it's not terribly recent. But Nobody Talks About Persian Cats is the name of the film. It's a film done by Iranian filmmakers, and it just shows how do they get the internet? How did they get around the restrictions on the internet, or passing around VHS tapes or DVDs of Western movies and things like that, and having a relationship, having a normal relationship in a highly structured, it's a darn good movie. It's a really,
no one knows about Persian cats.
No one knows about. That's right. No one knows about Persian cats, and it's really fascinating as well because there's a scene in it which I've heard repeated by people who were held by the regime and then let out of the prisons there. is that their interrogators are actually absolutely obsessed with like like the portrayal of sexuality in the
Hmm.
West. So can you really on the internet? Can you really see girls naked and stuff like that? And
Right.
like they're not asking state secrets. They're not asking like who's the head of your cell. Who's
Uh-huh.
running the
Right.
the rebellion cell.
Describe what you
Who's the
saw.
money man or whatever.
Let me loosen my belt.
No, it's just literally it's all about like what's the best site to go and see if you really like women with big feet? They're, they're all these really
Right.
deeply dysfunctional, and you find actually it's regimes like that are so bizarre because not to go on another tangent, but there is this real weird psycho thing that they do. Like I was talking with this woman. As we were preparing for this week's interview, and I told her when I was we were talking about different cities that they'd been to, and I told her I'd been down to Kherson, which had
Hmm.
been occupied for a long time until the Ukrainians liberated it. And they told me stories of like what it was like to live under Russian occupation, and it's like we knew there was a torture house on this street at this corner because the Russians wanted us to know that there was a torture house at that
Right.
corner in that
Of course.
because the message it sends the message. So every morning they would release people who they had spent the night or the last several days torturing, and they would do it at rush hour.
Hmm.
When everybody was on the street, they would dump this
Right.
bloodied, beaten guy out of the front door of this. There's something about the psychology of guys like this that, I fear, not to get dramatic about it, but I see the same mentality in some of the MAGA types of this kind of like
Hmm.
brutality brought
Yeah.
about
Oh yeah.
by
Faux masculinity.
desperate
Yeah.
insecurity, desperate
Yeah.
insecurity and
Right.
fear and law, like not being in power is, something that drives them to do insane things. And
Yeah.
I see it, like I said, I see it here in the former Soviet Union, the former Russian Empire, what the Russians do to the people of this country, Ukraine, or any nation they occupy, frankly. I see it in
Right.
Iran, and I see the sentiment, certainly the cruelty in the MAGA
In the
crowd.
Trump administration
Yeah,
too. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
There's this,
By the
there's
way,
something about certain human beings that respond to fear with some really, really heinous stuff.
this
Anyhow, what do
this
you
is
got?
this is Anahid. She's the lead singer of Masters of Persia, which is a death metal band from Persia. Because Iranian
Love it.
metal is the goat
Yeah, it's
in terms of
huge.
death metal. Like I understand, like Finnish and Norwegian death metal. You give it up for those guys and their pagan roots and their Viking drums and all that kind of stuff. But when you've lived under a regime like this for a long time and you're cranking out music like this and wearing your hair however the fuck you want, that's fucking hardcore, literally. So, like a massive salute to the Iranian metal and hard rock community, who just can't wait to be set loose. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
that's great.
yeah, it's so fucking great. It's so great.
That's
Yeah,
great. That is so
and
cool.
yeah,
Nothing.
um,
That's the counterbalance to this kind of mentality that I'm talking about,
yep.
which is this fear-based insecurity,
Mm-hmm.
impotent male energy. You take the sourcing of which in the human brain, far
Mm-hmm.
more learned people have studied this than I. But
Right.
this kind of stuff comes from fear. With the Russians and the Iranians and the MAGA
Mm-hmm.
types, the best weapon against fear is laughter. Joy is human expression. it's because it takes a certain amount of bravery. It takes a certain amount of strength of character, which they lack, and they know it. But to stand up on a stage with a microphone and do 20 minutes, on how stupid Trump is, how lucky are we that we have that ability, and how
Yes.
important it is to mock them. They
Yes.
all need to be mocked, whether it's Vladimir Putin or whether it's Donald Trump. I don't care. They need to be mocked. It's the best way to for them to lose their power. The Ukrainians are actually really, really good at this.
Yes.
They put out propaganda on Telegram channels that they know Russians are going to see, and they'll make these farcical cartoons and stuff of Vladimir Putin, and they'll mock him, and
Right.
they'll name weapons after things that are insulting to the Russians.
Right.
So the best way to fight against all of this is people power, getting out on the street, which we do on No King's Day, and I can't wait for the next one.
Mm-hmm.
But also mock the hell out of these people.
Right.
Mock the hell
they
out
can't
of these
take it. Jesus
insecure
Christ.
little men.
We're going to see this afternoon when I have the afternoon show. But Bongholio made his triumphant return to Rumble, and like it basically it's just like a giant maggot resounding boo from the minute he opened his mouth. It was fucking fantastic. And there's a bunch of people trying to like scoop up after him and protect him and help him rebuild it because they want to be guests on his show and shit like that. But everybody else, like the rank and file, are like, fuck this dude, because he was mocked incessantly, first by yours truly. And it stung so much so that he blocked everything and he stopped making clips because of me. You're welcome. He stopped clipping his show because I don't take stuff out of context. So he was like, don't give him any context. Don't give him any any bits. And now he's back there like nobody gives a shit. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
Beat his chest over where the Epstein files are? It's a fucking joke. But these people do not respond well to mockery. I think that's very key, and they're very sensitive because they're very weak, and it's why they have to take out this, their sort of viciousness on everybody else. Find somebody to punch down on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, I want to.
You see the Ukrainians. You see the Ukrainians still putting out videos of them like doing like dances in their trenches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They lose their power when
Yes.
they lose their fear. When
they're
when
aware.
they stop fearing them, and they know it.
Hold on.
Yeah.
But you got to win the midterms.
Oh, God.
Because if we don't win the midterms, it's just going to be, they'll find a reason to impeach me.
We're going to find a reason. I will look hard. I don't know if I could find it at this point. It'd be difficult. Obviously the crypto stuff and undeclared wars. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is I've been doing all this criming and I've been able to get away with it. And if we lose the midterms, they're going to hold me accountable for all the crimes that I've been doing. It's just not fair. Hey, dumbass, stop criming.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's the clearly. I think I have that. I should have that clip someplace.
We've crossed the Rubicon on that one. He is going to have to face, or at least in the annals of history, he's going to have to live with the fact that his legacy is going to be that he was one of the most corrupt presidents of all time.
Well, and he's going to know this.
That was great.
Stop breaking the law, asshole!
I think is the key. But I don't think he's going to see that play out. I think he's just going to know it as he's passing into the great beyond. Because I got to tell you, after this week, this part. And I'll share this with you. I'm sure you saw some of this. this little fucking face he made while he was doing the hits. He was doing the transgender athlete gag, and he was talking about how his wife tells him not to dance because it's fucking embarrassing and it's not presidential. She doesn't care that it's not presidential. Or she would have called him out for the grab him by the pussy stuff. She called him out because it's lame. He's a terrible dancer. It's stupid. This whole like.
And you
he's on
really think they
he's on an imaginary elliptical
anymore?
No, of course not.
You really think they talk anymore?
She calls him darling.
My wife tells me not to do this dance, but I just love it so much.
Yeah, right.
You love it so much.
And then he's like, if I had my choice, I'd do like that was the face. That's what he decided to go with. Holy shit! If this was a still frame from Biden making a face like that, I think they've got one shot of him looking at Marjorie Taylor Greene, going like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah,
Which is how you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. And they played that over and over and over again. But this is Captain fucking Macho over here. Yeah. And by the way, this is not doctored color. This is the color of the image that they put out. That's his skin. That's his hair. Now, I don't know if that's just light reflecting on his hair in this thing. It's very odd, but it looks like they sprayed some reddish brown on it just for shits and giggles. Or he was wearing a hat and the dye maybe leaked. Maybe he was wearing one of the maggot hats and it was one of the, not the fancy Chinese ones that he always wears. And it leaked onto his hair or something like that. But, classy guy. By the way, just I should have said this at the beginning, but Phil Bittner is a host of On the Edge, new show every Sunday. I think you guys are hitting back to your regular schedule. Yes.
Yep, we're getting back to our regular schedule. Yeah.
Excellent, and you'll be on the show on Saturday for the radio show.
I had one of the worst cases of jet lag I have ever had in my life in this trip.
Oh.
So because I went from California to Poland and then crossed the border, and the border crossing is a nightmare. It took me 8 hours leaving and 5 hours coming. You just sit there.
You just juggles your internal time
some
clock.
Some have it worse.
Right.
Some have it worse. So yeah, it really screwed me up with my time clock, my internal clock, but it's starting to get back to normal. We're going to be putting out shows every week. We have been talking about making some changes in the coming year, which it's premature to talk about now, but I brought back some equipment that might help me, if we wanted to start putting out more content of a different nature than what we've been doing. But again, it's too early for me to talk about. We are going to go through this winter. It is going to be a very difficult winter. We are January 7th, and I think we are -4 today.
Wow.
And it's going to get cold. It's going to get colder. It's going to get more bitter and snowy and gray, and that real intense bone chilling kind of. We've been lucky with winters the last couple of years.
Right.
I think this one's going to be tough. We'll get through it. We'll survive it. Ukrainians are incredibly, capable people, and they're gonna. We'll make it through. We'll make it through. And then meanwhile, all the while, Russia is getting more and more undercut. And this Venezuela thing is not. I don't know exactly how this whole thing is going to play out. None of us can know for sure about that.
Right.
But this losing their access to the warm water port, and the ability to illegally transfer fossil fuels around the globe has been, that's what's been keeping the war going. And if that continues to be hampered, and also if the Ukrainians continue to blast the hell out of refineries and storage facilities, and which they've been doing, this could potentially be a very difficult year for Russia.
Mhm.
So 2026 is going to be on both sides of the equation. It's going to be really tough to hold up and stay
Right.
warm and protected
Mhm.
with air defense on this side of the equation, and to dig in to make sure that the Russians don't go any further. And for the Russians, it's can they can they keep feeding their people and making any kind of money whatsoever and supporting their internal fossil fuels. I mean, if they can't run their generators, you want to live in Siberia without
Right.
central heating? Not
Especially
so
if the
much.
Chinese are offering
So,
you an exit, like here, take
and then there's
some.
that too.
Yeah, that and again, just clearing the people out so that they could take it easier, or just slowly go. Hey, by the way, this is ours now. If Trump's going to try that shit with Greenland, it opens up an entire can of worms that I like. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
oh,
it's gonna be
the
an
chat is
interesting year.
asking. The chat is asking if they can send you blankets. Um,
No, I'm
I
fine. I've got heaters and stuff like that.
okay.
We go when we have rough electrical periods where we're going 8 hours without any kind of power.
Hmm.
I got blankets. I got warm clothing and candles. Everything.
Right.
It's
Hmm.
we're not going to give up, because to give up means to abandon the idea of being Ukraine, of the identity, the nation, and they're just like I said,
Yeah.
a switch went off in their brains in 2014, and
Hmm.
it was, we are no longer a colony of Russia.
Right.
That's done.
Well put.
That's over.
Absolutely.
So, and that hasn't changed. And it's not going to change. So they can throw whatever they want at us, but these people are not going to quit. So that's what 2026 is going to be like, I suspect.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show, Philip. I'll see you on Saturday. Take care, stay
Yeah,
warm and
unless I,
safe as
unless I
best you
get
can.
unless I
And
get it's one of those jet lag, upside the head. But
yeah,
I'm getting better. I'm
all right, good.
acclimatizing. I've been back about 10 days. They
It's the
say it's a
super
time.
naps. Right,
It's a day for every time zone. So I think
right,
I'm
right.
I'm I'm getting
Oh, I
close.
know it
Getting
well.
close.
I know it well. All right. Thank
Yeah,
you so
I
much,
bet
brother.
you do.
All right.
All right, buddy. I'll see you on Saturday.
I insist. All right. Cheers. Ladies and gentlemen, there he goes. Our dear friend Philip Bittner. Now, I've got to run right out the door because I'm going to CES so that I can film some stuff there and then come back and do the afternoon show. So, busy, busy day. And I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I can get this system. God damn it.
That was really cool, by the way. That was really cool, by the way.
Just follow the money.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hold on one last second. Here we have a guest coming in because Chip was in here earlier. There you go. Hi, buddy. Hi, the boy. How is this boy? Hello, Bucky. Everyone, Bucky.
Can't see my black screen.
Right. He's there. I promise. You cannot push on the buttons again. No, you cannot lean on over and push the buttons. I know you want to lean over and push the buttons. You cannot. You cannot push the buttons. You're not allowed. You are a terrible producer. You are not good at this. You don't have to raise your hand if you have a question. How's that? All right. Aw. Well, give Fergus a hug, Carl. All right. Aw. Yeah. Did it a boy. Okay, bye.